Hey, I'm Janek Gwizdala. This is another exclusive interview for BassPlayersOnly.com. So, due to geography and scheduling, John and I couldn't be in the same place today to conduct this, this interview in person. But thanks to modern technology and digital recording, I'm able to tape this interview, or at least my portion of the interview, with some questions that John sent for me. And we're talking today about my new album, It Only Happens Once. Of course, I just happen to have a copy of it right here. That's the album, It Only Happens Once. It's my fourth album as a leader. It was, once again, quite a fast process in terms of production from the start to the finish. I think we went into the studio around the 19th or 20th, something like that, of February, and the album was released March 27th, and we're talking about 2012 for anyone who's watching this way in the future. And the concept behind the album was for it to be completely improvised. I went to the studio with virtually no, in fact zero written examples of music or compositional ideas. My buddy who ended up making the documentary about the making of the album, Dan Axdorf, came over from London, and he had done some pre-production, like some programming, some like 2-bar loops, which we ended up jamming along to in the studio, and then I chopped up a little bit later on in the mix. But that was probably the only kind of compositional preparation we had for the album at all. So it was definitely about capturing a moment and it being a true and honest representation of what was going on in our kind of collective musical minds right at that time. You know, there were 2 bands on the album. We basically tracked with 2 different drummers, with Mark Juliana and Jojo Mayer, over 2 days. So we basically did 2 sessions, 2 different sessions over 2 days, and recorded enough material probably for 7 or 8 albums. And I think that was probably the hardest part, was actually deciding what of that material was going to make it on the record, and how I would go about mixing that and kind of creating the sonic statement that I set out to make with this recording. John asked me the question, it seems to me the new album has a sort of understated guitar and saxophone laden, electronics infused quality. Would you say that's about right? He also says, I hope you got that because I don't think I can say it again. I think I only barely managed to say it, and I'm reading it from the teleprompter here. Yeah, it's definitely a layered album. You know, Tim Miller, my guitar player, plays on both days. He's on the whole record. And then I had 2 different saxophone players, John Ellis and Justin Vasquez, come in on different days. And that was the idea. It was to add these different elements and really an experiment to see what we got. I didn't know whether I was going to come away with an album even at the end of the day. I didn't know whether it was going to work out and turn into an album that I wanted to release. Maybe it would have ended up being sort of a glorified and kind of expensive pre-production for a future project. But we got lucky, and maybe not even lucky. I mean, there was a reason I hired all these guys, you know, to play on this record, because I know how kind of open and responsive they are, and how much they listen to each other. So I knew something was going to happen, something interesting was going to happen, something honest was going to happen. So that's kind of the background and the concept behind, you know, behind the process of making this record.